Well, it's good to be back here again. This is a great opportunity for you to learn some stuff about green homes and what makes them green and why it's a good idea. Last time I talked about some of the advantages of living in a green home and what kinds of things you can do to make it green. This time we're going to look more at the investing side of it, and we'll talk about some numbers. So it's great to see people who come out on a Saturday morning ready to do some math, right? You got your calculators with you? All right, we'll do a little bit with the numbers, but we're not going to go real deep with that. There are a couple of key concepts I want to get across to you, though, and tell you about some of the other ideas investing in a green home world. And Tana told you a little bit about me. Here's a little bit more. I have a background in physics, so I have a PhD in physics. I taught high school before going to grad school. I taught at the college level after going to grad school. And in 2004, I left academia after spending 2 years building that greenhouse that she mentioned. And so for almost a decade now, I've been doing consulting and training and working on homes sometimes. That's me working in an attic. That's me building the house. And so I have a lot of practical, hands-on experience doing this stuff. I love going into crawl spaces and attics. I also do a lot of speaking now. This is my second one in this series I've done. And Tuesday I'll be in Chicago, Tuesday and Wednesday giving some talks up there. And I do training. This is a training class I did in Toronto a couple years ago. Do a bunch of different things. As she said, we do training for home energy raters and energy auditors. That's the BPI Test Center. BPI is the other organization that trains energy auditors, or has a standard for training energy auditors, and we administer that standard. We are a BPI Test Center. This is not that far from here, actually. Carrollton is a little ways up the road from here, and this is just about 5 miles outside of Carrollton. My now ex-wife and I bought 66 acres of land there and spent 2 years building this house, powered by the power of pure self-delusion, because for 2 years I was always just 2 months out from being finished with the house. And got it done, lived in the house for 3 years, which was great. Very comfortable house, very efficient house. Not as efficient as it would be if I were doing it now, because I was at the beginning of my learning curve on this stuff at that point. And here is a picture of the composting toilet tank, which sat in the basement. Since the divorce, my ex-wife sold the house, and I'm sure the new people have ripped out the composting toilet and the gray water system, sadly. There's the gray water system right there. We had a really simple, inexpensive gray water system, gravity-fed, no pumps, no tanks, no filters, which means that it's likely, well, without having been sold, it would have been likely to last a long time and continue to be used because it doesn't have the problems that a lot of gray water systems have. We built out of structural insulated panels, these sandwiches of foam, and OSB, which is a flaky plywood. So it was a great house, comfortable house, and so let's talk about money now. You know what Woody Allen said, right?
What he said?
Money's better than poverty, if only for financial reasons. So let's talk about money a little bit, and investing in a green home, and how much you can save when you invest in a green home. So before we get into the whole green home thing, let's look at a little example with something you can do even before you live in a green home. And by the way, before we get started, how many of you live in green homes now, or homes that are close to green? Okay, a few of you, all in the back row. Even if you don't live in a green home, there are things you can do to make it greener, like changing light bulbs. And if you take an incandescent light bulb and you change it out for a CFL, that is a CFL. That is an artist version of a CFL. It's in the Museum of Modern Art. I saw that online yesterday. I said I had to put that in there. So payback. You've heard this term payback, right? This is the question everybody asks. Well, if I'm going to do this thing, if I'm going to spend money to get more efficiency, if I'm going to spend money to save money, what's the payback? How long is it going to take me in saving money to pay for my investment? Right? Common question. So let's look at that. Let's do the math. This is pretty easy. So for an incandescent light bulb, and I say for example, let's take a 75 watt light bulb, and let's say that you're using that 75 watt light bulb in your house 5 hours per day. And multiplied 5 times 365, that gets you 1,825 hours per year that light bulb is on. When you multiply the wattage by the number of hours, you get kilowatt hours, and that's what the electric company charges you for. You get the electric bill, they tell you how many kilowatt hours you used that month, and they charge you a certain rate, like 12 cents per kilowatt hour, as a typical one around here. If you multiply 12 cents per kilowatt hour times the number of kilowatt hours, that tells you how much it cost you. This light bulb, this incandescent light bulb, costs you $16.44 per year. With those assumptions, that it's running 5 hours, it's on 5 hours per day, and your rate is 12 cents a kilowatt hour. I'm going to ignore the cost of the incandescent light bulb because they're so cheap, and the economics work out in their favor anyway. I mean, in the CFL's favor anyway, as we'll see. Yeah. So the CFL, or LED, LEDs are more expensive, but the efficiency is about the same. For the equivalent amount of light with a CFL, you're going to get an 18 watt bulb. And again, let's say that you're replacing that one that you were using 5 hours per day, so it's still 5 hours per day, still 1,825 hours per year. But now, you're about a quarter of the wattage, the same hours per year, so you're about a quarter of the kilowatt hours in a year, multiplied by the same price, and now you're a little bit less than $4 per year for that light bulb. So what's the payback? Well, payback, if we continue on with the math, is we need to look at our savings. So if we change from the incandescent to the CFL, we're going to save about $12.50 a year under the assumptions I made. And the cost to switch for an 18 watt CFL is about $7. You can get them cheaper, you can get them more expensive. I just chose that number because it's kind of a middle of the road number. So if you spend $7 to change out that one light bulb that you're using 5 hours per day, and you save $12.50 per year, you can calculate what your payback is. Your payback is a time period, the amount of time it takes you to pay off your investment, right? So we need to figure out how long is it going to take us to get $7 of energy savings. We do that by dividing the cost, the $7, by the annual savings, which is $12.50 per year. 7 divided by $12.54 gives us about half a year, 6.7 months. So changing out an incandescent light for a CFL pays for itself in about half a year. If that light's on 5 hours per day and your rate is 12 cents per kilowatt hour. Now, the bottom line here is the CFL pays for itself. It will definitely last more than 6.7 months. Well, there are some cheap ones out there that sometimes burn out quickly, but CFLs overall can last 5,000 to 10,000 hours. They will last for a long time. I still have my very first CFLs that I bought in 1992. My ex-wife got the house, I got the CFLs. So they last a long time. You get good quality CFLs and they last a long time. And also, if we take a light that is on 10 hours per day, average for the year, we double the amount of hours, we double the amount of kilowatt hours, we cut the payback period in half. So the more you use that light, the faster your payback is. And if you get a light that's cheaper, the payback is quicker too, because now you've cut the cost. So if you cut the cost in half, you find one for half the price, then the payback period is about 3 months, 3.5 months. Okay? Does that make sense? That's what payback is. Before I get into this though, that analysis that we did for light bulbs, you can do for anything. You can do it for replacing a refrigerator or a washing machine or a water heater. You can look at the cost upgrade to switch to a higher efficiency unit, look at the annual savings, divide the cost upgrade by the annual savings, figure out the payback. There's a flaw, however. when we go from looking at the payback for buying a more efficient light bulb to going to buying an energy efficient house. There's a flaw for a lot of people anyway. So let's, before we get into what that flaw is with applying payback to everything, let's talk about energy use in homes. So now we're going from single items like light bulbs to a whole home. Where do you think you use the most energy in your home? And let's stick to here in the Atlanta area. How many say we in the Atlanta area spend more of our energy dollars on heating?
On heating or food?
On heating. I'm separating heating and cooling here. How many of you think we spend more of our energy dollars on heating? How many think we spend more on air conditioning? How many think we spend more on water heating? And lights and appliances, anybody? Okay. Let's look at the numbers. I always love doing this because everybody's so surprised. So these are data from the Energy Information Administration, the US EIA. There's a government agency. They track all kinds of energy statistics, and they put out reports all the time. This is from their report about energy use in Georgia, household energy use in Georgia. This is for the whole US right here. That's for that's not South Atlanta. That is South Atlantic states. The states from Florida up to Maryland and Delaware along the coast. And this is Georgia. So in Georgia, 40% of our bill is lights and appliances. Wow. Lights and appliances. Now, 20 or 30 years ago, the heating and cooling side would have been more, well, heating maybe would have been more because homes were not as efficient, especially if you lump heating and cooling together. If you lump heating and cooling together in Georgia, we're about 41%, so it's about the same as lights and appliances. And these charts look at all homes. It's not just new homes, it's not just old homes, it's all homes together that they're looking at. So this is an average of all the different types of homes. As new homes get more efficient, the sections of this chart shifts, and the pie may or may not change in size as well. But this is the thing that surprised everybody. So what is this section right here? Let's see, that's pink, that's space heating. Space heating, 30%, and let's see, where's air conditioning? Air conditioning, blue, 11%. Holy moly. We spend more on heating than air conditioning here. We think about air conditioning. We pay our air conditioning bills in the summer, but Atlanta has really nice summers.
Sometimes.
Anybody want to disagree with me on that? I was born in Houston, and I lived there my first 10 years. Then I moved to South Louisiana, and then I lived 9 years in Florida later. So I think Atlanta has pretty nice summers. We have these periods in August where we can turn off our air conditioners, where the cool, dry mountain air comes down for a week and it's sunny and in the 70s and 50 or 40% relative humidity. We didn't have that in South Louisiana or Houston or Florida. So I think the summers here are pretty nice. And also, you may not realize this, but in Atlanta, we are the second highest major city in the U.S., behind Denver in elevation. Second highest major city in the U.S., behind Denver. We're at about 1,100 feet of elevation here in Atlanta, and so we have a significant amount of heating here. And this year it's starting off with a bang. We're getting some early heating loads in our houses this year. So we spend more of our energy dollars on heating than cooling here in Georgia. And overall in the U.S., it's even a bigger discrepancy, 41% to 6%. We're 30 to 11. And the whole southern Atlantic states, from Florida to Maryland to Delaware, we're close to the average there. Those numbers skew more towards cooling and a little bit less towards heating because Florida, I think, brings it down, because Florida is a big population with lots of cooling load and not much heating load. But the lights and appliances is a big section of the pie now. We have a lot more gadgets that we plug in than we used to, and we have more TVs in our house than we used to. All kinds of chargers for all kinds of devices. and electric hand lotion warmers. All right, so I like blowing people's mind with those numbers because almost every time I ask that question in the South or in this area, people say, oh, way more in air conditioning than heating. But actually, we're about 3 times more in heating than cooling. All right, this is a different breakdown where they split out refrigerators. And so the numbers look slightly different here. This is the US average, not just Georgia. But water heating, about 17%. What was the water heating in the other ones? Water heating, 18%, 17%, 19%. So water heating is a pretty big load by itself. That's a single load by itself. Remember, this green section is a whole bunch of things together. The washer, the dryer, the lights, the computers, the TVs, all that stuff.